can you explain to us, in the simplest terms possible, how can you tell that the Russians are behind this leak?
Well, Michael, there's forensic evidence and then circumstantial evidence. And the forensic kind of indicators come from the analysis initially done by CrowdStrike, working for the DNC in May. They published an update to this information online for anybody to review, which indicates that this is a very sophisticated actors. They found at least 2 highly skilled adversaries inside the networks extracting information. And as they analyzed the software that was used to do that, they saw very common patterns used in other cases, which point back to Russians. CrowdStrike and others have been working in this kind of analysis for years, and we're able to say the techniques look Russian, the tools look Russian. That's the forensic side. Then if you look at the motivation, so this is a group that is well-resourced. So groups that are well-resourced need a reason to do something. So what nation would have a motivation to penetrate and read these kind of things? Well, you could say that both China and Russia have an adversary, have a reason to read what all campaigns are doing. Who would have the motivation to release that? Clearly, the motivation for this kind of thing is a very Russian motivation.
A very Russian motivation. Carry that out. What do you mean by that?
Well, we've seen several things over the last 2 weeks. In the ramp-up to the Republican convention, there's a platform that may be looked upon by some as being a more a pro-Russian platform, and then statements by the Republican nominee Trump saying that he may not come to the aid of a NATO ally if they were attacked by Russia. So that is a platform very favorable to the Russians. So we've also seen over the last year statements made that indicate that maybe Putin likes Trump better. So this is a lot of innuendo and a lot of assumptions, but you need to roll that into the assessment made. Who would be behind this kind of attack? We also know that the attackers are based in Europe, just based upon where the software is configured and written and compiled, and where some of the DNS records point back to. So you take all that together, and the forensics and the circumstantial evidence and the motivation leads a lot of us to believe it was Russian.
Well, it might lead you to being Russian, but it also raises questions about the vulnerability of these email accounts that are held by the Democratic National Convention. What does it mean to say if the Kremlin is in fact involved in all this? How worried should Americans be that they have access to this type of email system?
You know, everyone who has access, every user, every citizen, every employee of any company should worry about the cyber threat. There are ways you can raise your defenses and reduce the chances that adversaries can do this kind of thing. But if this is indeed Russia or China, and if they decide to throw unlimited resources against it, it's going to be a fight, and you may not be successful all the time. Adversaries do end up penetrating, and you have to clean up and have a good incident response. We do advocate that everyone raise their defenses. At home, you do that by changing your passwords, upgrading your software, not sharing your passwords. At work, you do that by installing advanced next-generation firewalls and reviewing all of your plans and policies and incident response plans.
So that said, I'm sure the Democrats are now looking at possibly doing this with their own email server. What does it mean going forward for the DNC? How vulnerable is the United States to the type of information that would have been shared in those types of emails?
You know, there was a lot of information that was revealed that is strategically embarrassing for the DNC, and I think there is going to be a new enhanced focus on security for both political parties and all political campaigns. And that way it should serve as a positive impact. This kind of thing should not happen. It is not in our national interest to allow anybody to read the internal workings of any of our campaigns. So I believe both parties will be increasing their cybersecurity posture going forward.